Hello everyone and welcome to my new collection of mini-series that will be covering essentially all of the intermediate slash advanced CSS concepts. And this is mainly meant for either if you've just finished my Introduction to Web Development series or if you just want to learn some more stuff about CSS. The topics that we'll be covering over like all of the mini-series will be CSS Flexbox, CSS Grid, CSS animations, variables, and then we're actually going to be going over one of my personal favorite CSS frameworks, which is called Materialize. And it's like, it was the first framework I learned personally. There's nothing that makes it too special, but I've used it and I have used it and I still do use it for my personal website and things like that. And it's a really amazing CSS library. So yeah, this collection of mini-series is definitely going to take a little while to record, but after, if you can finish all of it, you will definitely level up your web development skills as a whole, because just learning all of these CSS concepts really can make the difference between an okay looking website and a really good looking website. Not saying that I'm completely an expert, but I've definitely come a long way from when I started web development personally. So in this first episode, or in this first like mini series, we will be going over what's called CSS Flexbox. And what Flexbox is mainly used for is it's used for somewhat of a one-dimensional positioning. And what that means is one-dimensional usually means like a line, whereas two-dimensional is like a grid, for example. And that's like kind of, the difference is the next mini-series, which we'll be covering CSS Grid, is for creating two-dimensional layouts, aka entire websites. While a Flexbox is really good at creating layouts that kind of happen in a line. Somewhat like, for example, if you have a navigation bar on a website where you have an about button, and then you have like a home button and a search thing in the top right, that whole top bar is probably a Flexbox. And then maybe even a footer where you have like the copyright information and all of the links for the site. It's usually also some sort of Flexbox down there at the bottom. It just makes it really easy to position text, to position elements in HTML overall. So you'll get a better glimpse of what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and go through all the basics to actually just set up this simplest Flexbox that we can make. And coming into this, I'm assuming that you have basic HTML and basic CSS knowledge. If you don't, go ahead and check out my Introduction to Web Development series, which I just finished releasing 2 days ago. And there's a playlist on my channel for that. So just open up a new folder in VS Code. And again, if you do not have VS Code or all of this whole workspace set up like I have right here, you can watch at least the first episode in my Introduction to Web Development series where we went over installing this program. So you want to hit this new file button and then type in index.html to create a basic website. And then you want to click an exclamation point to essentially set up a boilerplate website, a very simple template. And then inside this body, we're just going to quickly create an h1, a header 1, hello world, just to make sure it's all working. So let me go ahead and pull up this. And let me position this. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the live server button to open up a live server. So we have this hello world right here. And then, so now we know this is all working and all set up. So great, that's kind of the first step. And then for this Flexbox tutorial, we're mostly going to be going through how to set up a nav bar kind of deal, because that's really one of the first applications that you normally would use. And it's like when setting up a website, it is one of the first things you set up in general is a nav bar. It's that little bar on the top, like I said, that has all the buttons to navigate around the website. So we're going to go ahead and just keep our h1 here. But if you remember from the semantic tag episode in our Introduction to Web Development series, we're going to create a header just to signify this is like the kind of top level of our website. And then we are going to go ahead and create a nav element inside that. And then inside this nav element, we are going to create a UL, which is an unordered list, and an LI. And then and we're actually going to make a bunch of LIs. So we're going to create home, and then let's copy this and just type about and then contact, for example. And then maybe like, let me think about my website, like testimonials or something. So something like that. And now you can see, if you remember, a UL is an unordered list, which is generally a bulleted list by default. And then LIs are the different items in that list. And this is kind of like convention when you program websites. Generally, the nav bar, this NAV is a semantic tag, just like header. It kind of signifies this is the nav bar. And then the UL and LI is just convention for how we normally will lay out, or how we normally will represent the different buttons in HTML. And with some CSS magic, we can turn this little list here into a full-fledged just bar. There's no dots. Like, we can get rid of the bullet points. We can position them so that they're vertical, or so that they're horizontal instead of vertical, and make it look a lot better. So this is just the first setup. So we want to create a header, and then a nav inside it, and then a UL inside it, and then a bunch of LIs denoting the different kind of parts of the website that we want to navigate to. So that's the first step to setting up our basic Flexbox kind of layout. And then we want to go ahead and link our style file now. So in here in the head, before we close the head tag, we want to create a link :CSS, which is a link rel style sheet href equals style.css. If you cannot do that autocomplete, you can just type this out. And then we're going to create a style.css file, similarly to how we created index.html by clicking this new file button. And then once we have that all running, let's go ahead and just make sure it's all running. One thing I did not actually teach in my Introduction to Web Development series, it was an oversight on my part, was you can select IDs by using a hash. You can select classes by using a dot, but actually you can select whole elements. Like, you can say h1 and then say color is red, and then that'll select every single h1 on our website. So if I save this and it goes red, that's how we know, that's just a quick check to make sure that this style file is actually linked with our website. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a nav, and then a greater than sign, and then a UL. And what this means in our CSS is we are saying nav for every nav element in our website, which is just this one because we only have one. And then when we use this greater than, we are saying a child of. So we are basically saying every unordered list that is a child of a nav. And if you remember, a child is essentially an element that occurs inside another element. So this UL is a child of the nav, and nav is the UL's parent. Header is the nav's parent. Body is the header's parent. And then again, it works in the other direction. Header is the body's child, nav is the header's child, UL is the nav's child. So what this means here is select our nav, and then look at its children, is what this greater than means, and then find the UL. So basically we're only targeting this list right here. And then we want to say list style :none. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and remove our bullet points. So again, this whole selector, this is called a selector, is basically selecting this UL right here, and then we're saying list style equals none, or list style :none, and what that is doing is it is removing our bullet points. So that's the first step. And then let me just take off some boxes here. Let's create some basic styles to kind of illustrate how Flexbox works. So this UL is actually going to be what's called our Flexbox container, and all of these LIs are going to be our Flexbox items. So we're going to have to say this nav UL. We're going to give it a background color to kind of differentiate it. Let's give it a, or let's actually find some RGB color codes. Let's go to this website I looked at the last time. I searched up RGB color codes on Google and then just found this random website. And let's give it a nice, like some sort of blue. Let's give it this powder blue here. So we're going to give our nav UL a powder blue background, which again is going to, the whole UL is this whole box here, and then these LIs are part of the UL. And then we're going to select our LIs now. So nav UL, and then we do another child LI, because the reasoning behind this is that UL that we've have a blue background, and then we're going one layer deeper and finding the LI. And VS Code is really nice about this. When we hover, you can see nav UL ULI. That's kind of the selector that we're creating, aka like what we're looking for. So you see a nav, and then a UL inside and an LI inside. And if we look at our code here, we have a nav and then a UL inside, and then we have a bunch of LIs inside. So it's going to select every single one of these, and we're going to give them each a background color of, let's just find a slightly different, a cornflower blue, and then let's go ahead and paste. And what that's going to do is notice, so again, if I remove this, notice this whole list is this kind of light blue, and when we give our LIs a background, this whole section here goes dark blue because this is the LIs, the space that the LIs occupy. So that's just to kind of get you an idea of what this all looks like. And then I'm going to add some padding into this. So padding, let's just add 1 or 5 pixels of padding, just so you can see. So this is a better representation. I'll change it to 10. So this whole light blue here is our UL, and then the dark blue in here is the LIs. And so this is just some basic CSS here. And if you're confused at all, just go ahead and rewatch what I was saying. I was trying to explain kind of what all of these lines mean. And none of this is Flexbox yet. But to create our Flexbox layout, we want to select our UL, which is our, like I said, our Flexbox container. It's basically it's the container of all the items. And remember, we said Flexboxes are generally for line UIs. Like if something goes in a line, then we can use a Flexbox for it. And this UL is what's going to house all of the buttons that will be in a line. So that's why this is the container. So we come in here and then we say display : flex. And that will automatically collapse it. So notice before they were all vertical like normal. That's how HTML normally behaves because it's something called block. But then once we add flex here, they all collapse into one line. And then now they're vertical. And in fact, if I add some spacing, let's just add some margin, which remember from my introduction to web development series, padding is spacing on the inside, while margin is spacing on the outside. So if I add like margin of 2 pixels, we're going to get a little space, which is the margin, between each of these items. So that's how we can tell that they're all distinct items. And if I make that a little bit bigger, it'll become more pronounced. Notice there's this blue space in between our items. And if you come look at our HTML here, we have li home, li about, li contact, and li testimonials. And each one of them is this little square here. So that is, in essence, how we create a basic Flexbox UI. And really, I added all of this styling here, this and this, to help make it easier to understand. This, actually, all of this right here, because that's what gave it the background. But if we just remove that code, notice this is still a Flexbox layout. They're all each kind of just taking up a vertical space, except I added these colorings and this padding and margin to kind of show you the differentiation between like each item, how they're actually, distinct items and they're not all bunched in together. So yeah, this has pretty much just been a simple introduction to Flexbox, creating a very simple Flexbox layout, which is this vertical kind of line-based layout. And in the next video, we're going to be diving deeper into how to actually like position these things, because we can actually make it so that there's only one home here on the left, and then the about, contact, and testimonials maybe gets pushed off to the right, or maybe like they're split half and half, or maybe we can even have them spaced evenly or spaced like different ways and stuff like that. So it's really cool what we can do with Flexbox. We can position these items however we want. And that's kind of the point of Flexbox versus just using normal CSS styling. So if you want to see the progression of all of these mini-series, you can go ahead and check out the playlist, which will be linked in the description, where I upload daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.